In a distant corner of the galaxy, far beyond the reaches of human exploration, an alliance of advanced civilizations known as the Galactic Council governed the cosmos. The Council was made up of beings from countless species, each with their own unique cultures, technologies, and philosophies. For centuries they had observed Earth from afar, watching humanity grow and evolve. To the Council members, humans were nothing more than primitive creatures, fragile, chaotic, and prone to violence. They believed that humans feared peace because they constantly fought among themselves over land, resources, and ideologies. This perception shaped their view of humanity, leading them to dismiss Earth as unworthy of joining the interstellar community. The Galactic Council convened aboard their massive orbital station, a sprawling structure that floated in the vastness of space near the edge of human territory. Representatives from dozens of alien species gathered around a glowing table, their forms ranging from insectoid creatures with shimmering exoskeletons to towering translucent beings who communicated through pulses of light. Each representative bore symbols of their homeworlds, intricate designs etched into their skin or clothing that signified their status and authority. At the center of the room stood Zik-7, an insectoid diplomat with multiple limbs and eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. He was presenting his report on humanity, a topic that had sparked heated debates within the Council. Humans are inherently fearful, Zik-7 declared, his voice resonating through the chamber in a series of clicks and hums translated into universal galactic standard. Their history is riddled with conflict, wars waged over trivial matters like borders, ideologies, and even the color of their flags. They lack the wisdom to resolve disputes peacefully and instead resort to violence out of desperation. His words were met with murmurs of agreement from many council members. Some nodded solemnly, while others exchanged knowing glances. It seemed clear to them. Humanity was not ready for the responsibilities of galactic citizenship, but not everyone shared this opinion. Varnos, an elder from a long-lived aquatic species, leaned forward in her seat, her glistening form catching the soft glow of the overhead lights. Her voice was calm but firm as she addressed the assembly. "Perhaps we have misjudged them," she said. "We observe their wars and assume fear drives them. But what if there is more to their story? What if their conflicts arise not from cowardice, but from something else entirely?" Her question hung in the air, unanswered. Most council members dismissed her concerns, unwilling to entertain the possibility that they might be wrong about humanity. Yet her words planted a seed of doubt in the minds of a few. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was undergoing a transformation. After centuries of division and strife, leaders from across the globe had come together to form the Terran Alliance, a unified government designed to ensure cooperation and survival in an increasingly uncertain world. The discovery of extraterrestrial life had accelerated this process, forcing nations to set aside their differences and work toward a common goal. When emissaries from the Galactic Council arrived at Earth's orbit, humanity greeted them with cautious optimism. The Council's message was blunt and uncompromising: submit to their authority or face isolation from interstellar trade and diplomacy. For many humans, the Council's demands felt like an insult. They had worked tirelessly to overcome their divisions and build a better future, only to be treated as inferior by beings who saw them as little more than savages. Yet, others argued that compliance was necessary. Humanity was still recovering from the scars of past wars, and the prospect of accessing advanced alien technology and knowledge was too tempting to ignore. Reluctantly, the Terran Alliance agreed to cooperate, hoping to prove their worth to the Council and earn their place among the stars. As negotiations began, tensions simmered beneath the surface. The Council demanded access to Earth's military secrets, claiming it was necessary to assess whether humanity posed a threat to galactic stability. The request sparked outrage among some human leaders, who feared that revealing such information would leave Earth vulnerable to exploitation. Others, however, believed that transparency was the key to earning the Council's trust. After much debate, the Terran Alliance decided to comply, albeit reluctantly. They provided the Council with detailed records of their military capabilities, technological advancements, and historical conflicts. What the Council discovered shocked them. Human technology, though rudimentary compared to that of other species, displayed remarkable ingenuity. Their machines were built with resourcefulness and creativity, often repurposing materials in ways that baffled even the most advanced engineers. More importantly, the records revealed something unexpected about humanity's wars. Contrary to the Council's assumptions, these conflicts were not born out of fear or cowardice. Instead, they stemmed from acts of defiance against oppression, efforts to protect loved ones, and struggles to secure freedom and equality. Humans fought not because they were afraid, but because they refused to surrender to despair. This revelation divided the Council. Some members viewed humanity as unpredictable and dangerous, fearing that their rebellious nature could disrupt the delicate balance of galactic power. Others, however, found themselves intrigued by the resilience and determination displayed in human history. Varnos, in particular, became a vocal advocate for reconsidering their stance. She argued that humanity's ability to overcome adversity and unite in the face of challenges demonstrated qualities worthy of respect. They are not cowards, she insisted during one heated session. They are survivors. Back on Earth, whispers of rebellion began to spread. Many citizens felt that the Council's demands were arrogant and condescending, treating humanity as incapable of governing itself. Among these dissenters was Mira, a young engineer whose innovative designs had played a crucial role in developing Earth's hybrid spacecraft. Mira had always been passionate about pushing boundaries, whether in her work or in her beliefs. When she heard about the Council's ultimatums, she couldn't stay silent. Through online platforms and public speeches, she called for resistance, urging her fellow humans to stand up for their rights and dignity. Mira's words struck a chord with millions of people around the world. Her speeches, delivered with fiery conviction, inspired hope and determination. She reminded her audience of humanity's greatest achievements: the moon landing, the eradication of diseases, the creation of art and music that transcended language and culture. "We are not afraid," she declared during one rally, her voice echoing through a packed stadium. "We have faced our fears and overcome them time and time again. If the Council thinks they can intimidate us, they are mistaken. We will show them what it means to be human." Her message resonated deeply, igniting a wave of activism and solidarity. Citizens organized protests, signed petitions, and volunteered their skills to support the Terran Alliance's diplomatic efforts. Engineers worked around the clock to improve Earth's defenses, while scientists collaborated on projects aimed at advancing human technology. Even artists contributed, creating works that celebrated humanity's spirit and resilience. For the first time in history, Earth truly felt united, not just as nations, but as a single species striving for a better future. Yet beneath this newfound unity lay an undercurrent of unease. The Council's presence loomed large, a constant reminder of the challenges ahead. Despite their progress, humanity remained vastly outmatched in terms of technology and experience. Many wondered whether their courage would be enough to withstand the might of the Galactic Council. As preparations continued, both sides braced for the possibility of conflict. Neither realized just how far humanity would go to defend its dignity, or how profoundly the coming events would reshape the galaxy. And so, as the Council deliberated and humanity prepared, the stage was set for a confrontation that would test the limits of courage, determination, and the very definition of strength. The outcome remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: the days ahead would change everything. For Earth, for the Galactic Council, and for the entire universe. The tension between humanity and the Galactic Council continued to escalate, creating a charged atmosphere that seemed ready to ignite at any moment. On Earth, the Terran Alliance worked tirelessly to prepare for the worst-case scenario: war. While some Council members viewed humanity's compliance with their demands as a sign of submission, others saw it as a calculated move, a temporary truce before an inevitable rebellion. Back on the Council's orbital station, debates raged. Among its representatives, each faction pushing for different strategies. Some advocated for immediate military action to crush human resistance before it could grow stronger, while others urged caution, warning of the unpredictable consequences of provoking a species known for its adaptability and tenacity. Zix 7, the insectoid diplomat who had initially labeled humans as fearful creatures, remained adamant in his belief that humanity was incapable of true unity. Their history is proof enough, he argued during one heated session. Even now they squabble amongst themselves, unable to agree on how best to respond to our demands. They lack the discipline required for galactic citizenship. His words were met with nods from several counselors, but Varnos, the elder from the aquatic species, countered him sharply. Humans are not what you claim them to be, Varnos said, her voice calm yet firm. Their willingness to share their military secrets despite their fears shows a level of trust we should not dismiss lightly. And have you considered why they fight? Their wars are not born solely out of fear, but often out of hope, for freedom, justice, or survival against overwhelming odds. These qualities make them dangerous opponents if provoked unnecessarily. Her argument sparked murmurs among the council members, dividing them further. While some dismissed her perspective as overly sentimental, others began to entertain the idea that humanity might possess strengths they had overlooked. However, the majority still leaned toward viewing humans as a potential threat that needed to be neutralized swiftly. It was this mindset that led to a catastrophic decision, one that would shatter the fragile peace and push humanity to its limits. Without warning, a rogue faction within the Galactic Council launched a surprise attack on Earth's moon-based research facility. The facility, nestled in the shadowy craters of the lunar surface, housed cutting-edge technology and served as a hub for scientific innovation. Its destruction would cripple humanity's technological progress and send a clear message: defiance would not be tolerated. The strike came in the dead of night, catching the researchers and engineers stationed there completely off guard. Plasma beams tore through the reinforced domes, obliterating laboratories and living quarters alike. Thousands perished in the initial assault, and the facility was reduced to smoldering ruins within minutes. News of the attack reached Earth almost instantly, thanks to advanced communication networks established by the Terran Alliance. As images of the devastation spread across global media, shockwaves rippled through every corner of society. Citizens gathered around screens in homes, offices, and public squares, their faces etched with disbelief and anger. The scale of the loss was staggering, not just in terms of lives lost, but also in the irreplaceable knowledge and resources destroyed. For many, the attack felt like a betrayal. Humanity had complied with the Council's demands, hoping to avoid conflict, only to be met with unprovoked violence. Instead of crumbling under fear, however, humanity responded with a collective resolve that surprised even its own leaders. Governments around the world set aside petty rivalries and poured all available resources into defense efforts. Factories once used to produce consumer goods were repurposed to manufacture weapons and spacecraft. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock, their exhaustion fueled by determination. Even ordinary citizens pitched in, volunteering their time and skills to support the war effort. Communities organized drives to collect materials, ration supplies, and provide shelter for displaced families. In cities and rural areas alike, banners bearing slogans like "Unity through Adversity" and "For Earth, for Freedom" hung from buildings, symbolizing the shared purpose that now bound humanity together. At the heart of this mobilization stood Mira, the young engineer whose fiery speeches had ignited a movement of resistance. She became a central figure in organizing civilian support networks, ensuring that no segment of society was left behind in the fight ahead. Her charisma and leadership inspired millions, earning her both admiration and criticism. Some accused her of inciting unnecessary hostility, claiming that diplomacy might still salvage the situation, but Mira refused to back down. "They attacked us because they underestimated us," she told a crowd gathered in a packed stadium. "But let them underestimate us again. Let them see what happens when humanity fights not out of fear, but out of love for our families, our planet, and our future." Mira's influence extended beyond rallying public support. She spearheaded a daring plan to reverse engineer alien technology recovered from the wreckage of the lunar attack. Though risky, the project offered a glimmer of hope. If successful, humanity could bridge the technological gap between itself and the Council. Working alongside a team of brilliant minds, Mira dedicated herself to the task, spending long hours in dimly lit labs surrounded by fragments of alien machinery. Progress was slow and fraught with setbacks, but her unwavering determination kept the team motivated. Eventually, they succeeded in creating hybrid ships, vessels that combined human ingenuity with alien engineering. These ships were faster, more durable, and better armed than anything humanity had built before, giving them a fighting chance against the Council's superior fleet. As preparations intensified, diplomatic envoys from Earth reached out to sympathetic alien races seeking allies willing to stand against the Council's tyranny. News of the lunar attack had spread throughout the galaxy, sparking outrage among species who had long resented the Council's authoritarian rule. Several smaller factions pledged their support, offering troops, resources, and intelligence. Others provided safe passage for human diplomats, allowing them to negotiate alliances in secret. This growing coalition gave humanity a sliver of hope, though they knew the road ahead would be perilous. Meanwhile, the Council braced for retaliation, mobilizing its forces to crush Earth's uprising. Commanders reviewed battle plans, confident in their numerical superiority and advanced weaponry. To them, humanity's defiance was nothing more than a desperate act of rebellion doomed to fail. What they failed to anticipate, however, was the depth of human courage and resourcefulness. When the Council sent reinforcements to Earth's orbit, expecting an easy victory, they encountered something entirely unexpected: a united, fearless species ready to defend its home at any cost. The first skirmishes took place in the cold vacuum of space, where human pilots demonstrated extraordinary bravery. Outnumbered and outgunned, they relied on clever tactics and sheer determination to hold their ground. Pilots sacrificed themselves to protect larger ships, drawing enemy fire so that others could escape. Engineers worked miracles, repairing damaged vessels mid-combat and keeping them operational despite overwhelming odds. Ground troops coordinated perfectly, launching counterattacks that caught the Council's forces off guard. Civilians played a role too, launching makeshift drones equipped with EMP devices to disable enemy ships. Every individual, regardless of rank or background, contributed to the fight in ways large and small. Back on Earth, morale soared as reports of victories trickled in. Each success, no matter how minor, was celebrated as proof that humanity could stand toe-to-toe with the galaxy's most powerful alliance. Mira became a symbol of this newfound spirit, her name chanted in streets and broadcast across news channels. Yet she remained humble, always deflecting praise onto the countless individuals working tirelessly behind the scenes. "This isn't about me," she said during one interview. "It's about every person who refuses to give up, who believes in a better future for all of us." Despite these triumphs, the cost of war weighed heavily on everyone. Casualties mounted, and the scars of battle stretched far beyond physical wounds. Families mourned loved ones lost in combat, while survivors grappled with the trauma of witnessing unimaginable destruction. Hospitals overflowed with injured soldiers and civilians, straining already limited resources. Yet even in the face of such hardship, humanity persevered. Stories of heroism and sacrifice emerged daily, reminding people of the values they were fighting for: freedom, equality, and the right to chart their own destiny. As the conflict dragged on, cracks began to form within the Galactic Council itself. Some member species questioned the morality of attacking a civilization that had done nothing to provoke hostility. Others grew uneasy at the prospect of prolonged warfare, fearing it might destabilize the entire galaxy. Varno seized the opportunity to call for an emergency session, urging her fellow counselors to reconsider their stance. "We cannot continue down this path," she warned. "Humanity has proven that they are neither weak nor cowardly. If we persist in treating them as enemies, we risk losing not only this war but also the trust of other civilizations." Her impassioned plea swayed many undecided counselors, fracturing the coalition further. Internal divisions weakened the Council's resolve, forcing. The battle between humanity and the Galactic Council reached its peak as both sides clashed in Earth's orbit, turning the once peaceful expanse of space into a fiery battleground. The sight was breathtaking yet terrifying. Streaks of plasma, fire illuminated the darkness while explosions lit up the night sky on Earth below. For those watching from the planet's surface, it was a surreal spectacle, a reminder of the stakes at hand. Humanity wasn't just fighting to protect its home. It was fighting for its place in the universe. Every ship that launched, every soldier who stood their ground, carried the weight of billions of hopes and dreams. Humanity's forces were vastly outnumbered, but what they lacked in numbers, they made up for in determination. Pilots flew with unmatched ferocity, weaving through enemy formations with precision and daring. Their hybrid ships, born from Mira's relentless efforts to reverse engineer alien technology, proved to be game changers. These vessels combined human adaptability with Council-level firepower, allowing Earth's fleet to hold its own against the Council's superior armada. Even so, the odds remained daunting. The Council's commanders had decades, if not centuries, of combat experience, and their strategies reflected that expertise. They deployed swarms of drones, targeted supply lines, and used overwhelming force to try and break humanity's resolve. But humanity refused to break. Instead, they adapted. In one particularly intense skirmish, a squadron of human pilots executed a bold maneuver that caught the Council off guard. Led by Captain Elias Kane, a decorated war hero known for his quick thinking under pressure, the squadron lured an entire wing of Council fighters into a trap. Using decoy signals and clever positioning, they drew the enemy into a narrow corridor between two asteroids. Once the Council ships were boxed in, hidden turrets emerged from the rocky terrain, unleashing a barrage of missiles that decimated the trapped fleet. It was a risky move, and several human ships were lost in the process, but the victory sent shockwaves through the Council ranks. On the ground, civilians played an equally vital role, inspired by Mira's speeches and the stories of bravery coming from the front lines. Ordinary people found extraordinary ways to contribute. Mechanics worked tirelessly to repair damaged ships, often improvising solutions when spare parts ran low. Farmers donated food supplies to feed soldiers and displaced families. Artists created murals and songs that boosted morale, reminding everyone of why they were fighting. One teenager named Leo, living in a small coastal town, even built a network of amateur radio operators to relay messages between distant outposts. His initiative saved countless lives by ensuring communication lines stayed open during critical moments. Mira herself remained at the forefront of the resistance, coordinating efforts both on and off the battlefield. Her leadership style was unconventional but effective. She encouraged collaboration across disciplines, bringing together engineers, scientists, strategists, and artists to tackle problems from every angle. When the Council deployed a new type of energy shield around their flagship, a floating fortress bristling with weapons, Mira assembled a team to crack the technology. After days of sleepless effort, they discovered a flaw. The shields momentarily flickered whenever the ship fired its main cannons. Armed with this knowledge, Mira devised a plan to exploit the weakness. Her strategy involved launching a direct assault on the Council's flagship, a task that seemed suicidal given its size and defenses. But Mira knew that taking out the command center could cripple the Council's operations and turn the tide of the war. She personally led the mission, piloting one of the hybrid ships alongside a hand-picked crew of volunteers. As they approached the massive vessel, flanked by waves of enemy fighters, Mira's voice crackled over the comms. "This isn't about winning or losing," she said. "It's about showing them and ourselves that we won't back down no matter what." The assault began with a diversionary tactic. A group of smaller ships engaged the flagship's outer defenses, drawing attention away from Mira's team. Meanwhile, her ship slipped past the chaos, dodging laser blasts and debris. Inside the cockpit, tension hung thick in the air. Sweat dripped down the faces of the crew members as they monitored instruments and prepared for the final approach. When the flagship unleashed its primary weapon, the energy shield flickered exactly as predicted. Seizing the moment, Mira ordered her ship to accelerate, punching through the gap and landing inside the vessel's hangar bay. Once aboard, the team faced fierce resistance. Council troops flooded the corridors, armed with advanced weaponry and reinforced armor. Outgunned and outnumbered, Mira's crew fought with everything they had: improvised explosives, stolen blasters, and sheer willpower. Each step forward came at a cost, but they pressed on, driven by the belief that their sacrifice would mean something. Finally, after what felt like hours of relentless combat, they reached the flagship's core, an enormous chamber filled with glowing conduits and pulsating machinery. At its center stood a council general, overseeing the operation with cold detachment. "You've done well to get this far," the general said, his voice distorted by a translator device. "But you're too late. Your species is stubborn but ultimately insignificant." Mira stepped forward, her eyes blazing with defiance. "Stubborn? Yes. Insignificant? Never. You underestimated us from the start, and now you'll pay the price." With that, she activated the EMP device strapped to her belt. The explosion knocked everyone off their feet, disabling the flagship's systems and plunging the room into darkness. As alarms blared and emergency lights flickered on, Mira's team retreated, leaving behind chaos and confusion. The impact of the flagship's disablement rippled throughout the Council's fleet. Without central coordination, their attacks became disjointed and less effective. Sensing an opportunity, humanity launched a counteroffensive, pushing back against the Council's forces with renewed vigor. Pilots shouted encouragement over comms as they took down enemy ships one by one. Ground troops cheered when news of the flagship's fall reached them, fueling their determination to hold the line. Slowly but surely, the tide of the battle began to shift. Back on Earth, the mood transformed from fear to hope. People gathered in public squares watching live feeds of the battle with bated breath. When reports confirmed that the Council's flagship had been neutralized, celebrations erupted worldwide. Fireworks lit up the skies, music filled the streets, and strangers embraced as tears streamed down their faces. It was a moment of unity, unlike anything humanity had experienced before, a testament to what could be achieved when people worked together toward a common goal. Even within the Galactic Council, cracks widened further. Member species who had opposed the attack on Earth grew louder in their criticism, accusing the rogue faction responsible for the lunar strike of recklessness. Some openly questioned whether humanity truly posed a threat, or if their actions stemmed from legitimate grievances. Varno seized the moment, calling for another emergency session. "We cannot continue this war," she declared, her voice echoing through the council chamber. "Humanity has shown us that they are not cowards or savages. They are survivors capable of incredible feats when pushed to their limits. If we persist in treating them as enemies, we risk losing not only this conflict but also our moral standing in the galaxy." Her words struck a chord with many counselors, especially those who had grown disillusioned with the escalating violence. Debates turned heated as factions argued over the next course of action. Some advocated for unconditional surrender, believing that humanity's resilience made them impossible to subdue. Others called for a ceasefire, proposing negotiations to end the hostilities. Amid the turmoil, the Council's leadership faltered, unable to present a unified response. Meanwhile, humanity continued to push forward. With the Council's fleet in disarray, Earth's forces consolidated their gains, securing key positions in orbit and establishing defensive perimeters. Engineers worked around the clock to repair damaged ships and construct new ones, ensuring that humanity maintained its momentum. Diplomatic envoys reached out to sympathetic alien races, strengthening alliances and securing additional support. Though the war was far from over, there was a sense that victory was within reach. As the dust settled, Mira stood on the bridge of her ship, gazing out at the stars. Her face bore the marks of exhaustion, but her eyes sparkled with pride. Around her, the crew celebrated quietly, sharing stories of close calls and hard-fought victories. For the first time in weeks, there was a glimmer of peace, not the kind imposed by fear or domination, but the kind earned through struggle and sacrifice. Mira allowed herself a rare smile, knowing that humanity had proven itself worthy not just of survival, but of respect. The road ahead would still be difficult, filled with challenges and uncertainties. But one thing was certain: humanity had changed. No longer content to cower in the shadow of more advanced civilizations, they had risen to meet the galaxy on equal terms. And as Mira looked out at the endless expanse of space, she felt a surge of hope, not just for Earth, but for all beings who dared to dream of a better future. The aftermath of the battle left both humanity and the Galactic Council reeling, though in vastly different ways. For humanity, the victory over the Council's flagship was a turning point, a moment that proved they could stand toe-to-toe with even the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. But it came at a cost. Thousands had perished in the fighting, and Earth's infrastructure was stretched to its limits. Cities bore scars from orbital bombardments, factories churned out supplies non-stop, and hospitals overflowed with wounded, soldiers and civilians. Despite these hardships, the spirit of resilience remained unbroken. People worked tirelessly to rebuild what had been lost, driven by the belief that their sacrifices were not in vain. On the other side, the Galactic Council faced internal turmoil, unlike anything it had experienced before. The destruction of their flagship sent shockwaves through the Alliance, exposing deep fractures within its ranks. Member species who had opposed the war argued that humanity's defiance proved they were more than mere primitives. They were a force to be reckoned with. Others, particularly those aligned with the rogue faction responsible for the lunar attack, insisted on doubling down, claiming that showing weakness now would embolden other lesser species to rise against them. Debates turned into shouting matches, alliances crumbled, and some species withdrew entirely from the Council, unwilling to associate themselves with an organization increasingly seen as tyrannical and reckless. Varnos, the elder from the aquatic species, found herself at the center of this chaos. Her earlier warnings about underestimating humanity had gone largely ignored, but now her voice carried weight. During one heated session aboard the Council's orbital station, she addressed the assembly with quiet authority. "We made a grave mistake," she said, her words echoing through the chamber. "We assumed humanity's conflict stemmed from fear and weakness, but we failed to see the truth. They fight because they refuse to surrender. Their courage is not born of arrogance, but of hope. For survival, for freedom, for a better future. If we continue this war, we risk losing not only our credibility but also the stability of the entire galaxy." Her plea resonated with many counselors, especially those who had grown disillusioned with the escalating violence. Some openly questioned whether humanity truly posed a threat or if their resistance was justified given the Council's heavy-handed approach. Others pointed out that continued warfare would drain resources and weaken the Council's grip on power. Yet, the rogue faction refused to back down, insisting that humanity must be subdued at all costs. This division paralyzed the Council, leaving them unable to mount a coherent response to Earth's growing strength. Meanwhile, on Earth, Mira emerged as a symbol of humanity's newfound unity and determination. Her leadership during the assault on the Council's flagship had cemented her status as a hero, and her speeches inspired millions to keep pushing forward despite the challenges ahead. She traveled across the globe, visiting devastated communities and rallying support for the ongoing war effort. In one speech delivered to a packed stadium, she reminded her audience of how far they had come. "They thought we were afraid," she declared, her voice ringing out like a clarion call. "They thought we would bow to their demands and accept their judgment without question. But they underestimated us. We are not cowards. We are survivors, and we will never stop fighting for what is right." Mira's influence extended beyond morale-boosting speeches. She played a crucial role in shaping humanity's strategy moving forward. Recognizing that the Council's fractured state presented an opportunity, she urged the Terran Alliance to focus on diplomacy alongside military action. Envoys reached out to alien species sympathetic to humanity's cause, strengthening alliances and securing additional support. These diplomatic efforts paid off when several key species formally broke ties with the Council, pledging their aid to Earth. Their contributions ranged from medical supplies and technological expertise to outright military assistance, tipping the balance further in humanity's favor. As the Council struggled to regroup, humanity launched a series of coordinated strikes aimed at dismantling their remaining forces. Pilots flew with precision, targeting supply lines, communication hubs, and strategic installations. Ground troops executed daring raids behind enemy lines, disrupting logistics and sowing confusion among Council commanders. Engineers worked around the clock to repair damaged ships and construct new ones, ensuring that Earth's fleet remained operational despite heavy losses. Civilians continued to play a vital role, organizing drives to collect materials, ration, food, and provide shelter for displaced families. Every individual, regardless of rank or background, contributed to the fight in ways large and small. One particularly notable operation involved a joint mission between human pilots and their newly formed alien allies, dubbed Operation Starlight. The plan called for infiltrating a heavily fortified Council outpost located near a dense asteroid field. The outpost served as a staging ground for Council reinforcements, making it a critical target. Under cover of darkness, a team of hybrid ships, led by Captain Elias Kane, navigated the treacherous terrain, using the asteroids as cover to avoid detection. Once in position, they launched a surprise attack, catching the Council forces completely off guard. The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. Human pilots performed daring maneuvers, weaving through enemy fire while providing cover for ground troops tasked with disabling the outpost's defenses. Alien allies provided critical support, deploying advanced weaponry that overwhelmed the Council's forces. After hours of intense fighting, the outpost fell, dealing a significant blow to the Council's ability to reinforce their fleet. News of the victory spread quickly, boosting morale across Earth and galvanizing support for the war effort. Despite these successes, the toll of the conflict weighed heavily on everyone. Soldiers returning from the front lines bore physical and emotional scars, struggling to adjust to life away from the battlefield. Families mourned, loved ones lost in combat, while survivors grappled with the trauma of witnessing unimaginable destruction. Hospitals overflowed with injured personnel, straining already limited resources. Yet, even in the face of such hardship, humanity persevered. Stories of heroism and sacrifice emerged daily, reminding people of the values they were fighting for: freedom, equality, and the right to chart their own destiny. As the war dragged on, cracks within the Council widened further. Internal divisions weakened their resolve, forcing them to divert resources to maintain control over their own ranks. Morale among Council troops plummeted as rumors spread of dissent within the leadership. Desertions became increasingly common, with soldiers questioning the morality of continuing the fight. Some even defected to humanity's side, bringing valuable intelligence and expertise that proved instrumental in planning future operations. Recognizing that time was no longer on their side, the Council's remaining loyalists began exploring options for ending the conflict. Secret negotiations took place aboard neutral territory, facilitated by alien mediators sympathetic to humanity's cause. Representatives from both sides met cautiously, wary of betrayal after months of bloodshed. Humanity's envoys, led by Mira and senior officials from the Terran Alliance, demanded reparations for the lunar attack and guarantees of autonomy moving forward. They refused to settle for anything less than full recognition as equals within the interstellar community. For the first time in history, humanity stood at the bargaining table as a sovereign entity, earning the respect of former adversaries. The Council's representatives, once dismissive and condescending, now treated them with cautious deference. Though reluctant, the Council relented, unable to deny the truth any longer. Humanity wasn't driven by fear. It was fueled by hope, determination, and an unyielding desire to thrive. In exchange for peace, Earth joined the interstellar community as a sovereign member, gaining the right to chart its own destiny among the stars. Years later, stories of the war that changed everything inspired generations. Humanity's Bravery became legendary, proving that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act in spite of it. And as Mira gazed at the stars from her balcony, she smiled, knowing that Earth's greatest adventures were only beginning. The war between humanity and the Galactic Council had ended, but its echoes reverberated across the galaxy for decades to come. What began as a clash of misunderstanding and arrogance transformed into a turning point, not just for Earth, but for every civilization touched by the conflict. The peace agreement signed aboard a neutral alien station marked the dawn of a new era, one defined not by fear or dominance, but by cooperation and mutual respect. For humanity, it was more than a victory, it was validation. They had proven themselves worthy of standing alongside the most advanced species in the cosmos, earning their place not through submission, but through courage and resilience. The terms of the treaty were clear. Earth would be recognized as a sovereign member of the interstellar community, free to govern itself without interference from the Galactic Council. In return, humanity agreed to share its knowledge and resources, contributing to the collective progress of the galaxy. Reparations were promised for the destruction caused during the lunar attack, including aid to rebuild infrastructure and compensate families who had lost loved ones. Most importantly, the Council pledged to abandon its condescending view of humanity, acknowledging them as equals capable of shaping their own destiny. It was a hard-fought compromise, but one that left both sides hopeful for the future. On Earth, celebrations erupted worldwide. Cities lit up with fireworks, music filled the streets, and people gathered in public squares to honor those who had fought and fallen. Monuments were erected to commemorate the heroes of the war, soldiers, engineers, scientists, and civilians alike. Mira's name became synonymous with bravery and leadership, her speeches immortalized in history books and documentaries. Yet she remained humble, always deflecting praise onto the countless individuals who had contributed to the war effort. "This isn't my story," she often said. "It's ours. Every person who refused to give up, who believed in a better future for all of us. They are the true heroes." In the years that followed, humanity embarked on an unprecedented period of growth and innovation. With access to advanced alien technology and the wisdom of other civilizations, Earth's scientists made breakthroughs that once seemed impossible. Diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries were eradicated, renewable energy sources powered entire continents, and space exploration became a shared endeavor rather than a distant dream. Colonies sprang up on Mars, Europa, and beyond, each serving as a testament to humanity's boundless potential. The lessons learned during the war about unity, adaptability, and the importance of standing together became guiding principles for this new age of prosperity. But the impact of the war extended far beyond Earth. Within the Galactic Council, the conflict sparked a wave of introspection and reform. Many member species demanded accountability for the rogue faction responsible for the lunar attack, leading to trials and sanctions against those involved. Others called for a restructuring of the Council itself, arguing that its rigid hierarchy and authoritarian tendencies had led to the disastrous war. Slowly but surely, changes were implemented. Decision-making processes became more democratic, giving smaller species a greater voice in galactic affairs. Programs were introduced to promote cultural exchange and understanding, reducing the prejudices that had fueled so much mistrust. Varnos, the elder who had championed humanity's cause throughout the conflict, emerged as a key figure in these reforms. Her advocacy for compassion and inclusivity inspired a new generation of leaders within the Council. "We cannot repeat the mistakes of the past," she declared during one assembly. "The galaxy is vast, and its diversity is its greatest strength. If we wish to thrive, we must embrace that diversity, not suppress it." Her words resonated deeply, earning her widespread admiration and respect. Though some factions resisted change, the majority embraced her vision, paving the way for a more harmonious future. For humanity, joining the interstellar community brought both challenges and opportunities. Interacting with alien cultures required patience and humility, as differences in language, customs, and values often led to misunderstandings. Yet these interactions also enriched human society in ways no one could have predicted. Art, music, and philosophy flourished as humans absorbed influences from across the stars. Diplomats worked tirelessly to build bridges, fostering friendships and alliances that transcended borders and species. Trade routes expanded, bringing exotic goods and ideas to markets around the world. Humanity's role as a peacemaker grew, increasingly prominent, with Earth becoming a hub for resolving disputes and promoting collaboration among neighboring civilizations. Mira continued to play a vital role in shaping this new chapter of humanity's journey. After stepping down from her position as a military leader, she dedicated herself to education and diplomacy. She founded the Unity Institute, an organization aimed at teaching young people about the importance of cooperation and empathy in a diverse universe. Through lectures, workshops, and immersive experiences, the Institute prepared future generations to navigate the complexities of interstellar relations. Mira's passion for learning and connection inspired thousands, leaving an indelible mark on society. Decades later, when historians looked back on the war, they saw it not merely as a struggle for survival, but as a catalyst for transformation. Humanity's defiance had forced the galaxy to confront uncomfortable truths about power, privilege, and prejudice. By refusing to accept the Council's judgment, they had challenged the status quo and paved the way for a more equitable future. Their actions reminded others that even the smallest voices could spark monumental change if united by a common purpose. As Mira stood on a balcony overlooking a bustling city one evening, she reflected on how far humanity had come. The skyline glittered with lights, spacecraft streaked across the heavens, and laughter echoed from nearby streets. Children played in parks, their imaginations unfettered by fear of what lay beyond the stars. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel a sense of pride, not just in humanity's achievements, but in the resilience and hope that had carried them through the darkest of times. Yet she knew the journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Challenges would arise, conflicts would flare, and new adversaries might emerge. But Mira believed that humanity, and the galaxy as a whole, was ready to face whatever came next. Together, they had proven that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was the decision to act despite it. And with that courage, anything was possible. Her thoughts drifted to the stars above, each one representing a world teeming with life, stories, and dreams. Somewhere out there, civilizations were reaching for the same goals humanity had fought so hard to achieve: peace, understanding, and a chance to leave their mark on the universe. As Mira gazed upward, a smile spread across her face. The road ahead would be long, but she knew humanity's greatest adventures were only beginning.